Hello and welcome to the class. My name's Paddy. Today we're going to be looking at developing our arguments in our paragraphs for IELTS Writing Task 2. Remember, if you have any questions after you watch this class, you can click on the chat icon at the top of your page, send us a message with any questions that you have. This will be the first class of 2 classes, and this video will last just over 20 minutes. First, we're going to look at how to structure our body paragraphs. Then we're going to talk about what to write in each of those sentences. So by the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of how to plan and write your body paragraphs in Task 2. During this video, there will be some questions for you to answer. You can find these under the video. I will tell you when you need to answer them, and I will give you about 10 or 15 seconds to do that. Okay, let's get started. So a Task 2 essay will contain 2 or possibly 3 body paragraphs. This is where the main content of your argument will be, so it's important to structure these as best you can. So what does a good body paragraph need? First of all, you need a clear central point. This is part of your task achievement score. If you have 5 or 6 different ideas all squeezed together in one paragraph, it becomes confusing. So you need to have a clear point in each paragraph. You need to explain why your point is true, or why it's a good thing, or why it's a bad thing. Give some causes, give some effects. You need to develop your point. Importantly, you need to show how your point relates back to the question. Sometimes this is obvious, but sometimes you need to explain how it is relevant. The question also asks you to give some examples. This is not necessary for every single point you make, but there must be some examples in your essay. So how can we structure our answer to contain those points? Well, to show your clear central point, you need a topic sentence. A topic sentence is the first sentence of your paragraph. The purpose of a topic sentence is to clearly state the central point of the paragraph. So if you have one point in the paragraph, you need to state this as clearly as you can. If you have 2 points in your paragraph on the same side of the argument, then your topic sentence might summarize that side of the argument in a clear way. You then explain in more detail why this is true. As I said before, give causes, give effects, explain why something is a good thing, explain why something is a bad thing. Then you can give an example. Now, the question says to give examples from your own knowledge and your own experience. So you can use examples that you know about real people. But you can also use imaginary examples using conditionals. So imagine if a person did this. That is a good example sometimes. You need to show how the example is relevant to your point. Don't include an example unless it proves your point or it supports your point. If it's not obvious how it supports your point, you need to write a sentence explaining this. You can make 2 points in one paragraph. If you do this, your paragraph will be a little bit longer and you repeat this process again. So you might have 2 examples, or you might have 2 sentences that develop your 2 points. You might choose this type of structure for an advantage or disadvantage essay, a problem or solution essay, and some types of discussion essay. But 2 points is the maximum for any one paragraph. Now we're going to look at an example of this structure in response to an IELTS question. So let's read the question. Do you think it is the government's responsibility to care for elderly people, or should only their families be held responsible? So it's talking about the difference between government responsibility or family responsibility to care for elderly people. So it's saying, should the government be responsible to look after old people, or is it the responsibility of the family? So I'm going to write my task 2 paragraph in response. I'm going to need a topic sentence. I'm going to explain what I mean in more detail. I'm going to give an example, and I'm going to explain how the example relates to my point and how it relates to the question. So my point here is going to be that some people need government support because they don't have a family. So again, some old people need government support because they don't have a family. That's my argument. How can I build that into a paragraph? Well, here we can see the 4 sentences that make up my paragraph. There's a topic sentence, I explain in more detail, I give an example, and I explain how the example relates to the question and to the point. But sentences A, B, C, and D are not in the correct order. So you need to decide what is the correct order of these sentences using the structure that we saw before. Look at the first sentence below this video and choose the correct order for these sentences. So the correct order is D, A, C, and then B. D is my topic sentence. So this is stating my point clearly. It says, many older people have no family to look after them. This is clear what I'm going to talk about in this paragraph. I've not developed it yet. I've not explained exactly what this means. It's just stating clearly what my point is. I've started with the phrase, the first point to consider is. This is a good expression to begin your first body paragraph. Next is A. Here I'm explaining in more detail how this could be true. So many older people have no family to look after them. This could be because someone may have never had children, or because they may have moved to a new country later in life, meaning they will not have the support of family to look after them. So I'm explaining how this is true and relevant. C is my example. We can see this because of the phrase, for instance. For instance, a person who has never married or had children might retire at 70 years old, but have no one to look after them. So this is an imaginary example. I'm not talking about my grandmother or my grandfather. It's not a personal example. I'm imagining a situation where my topic sentence could be true. This is absolutely fine. And in B, I'm explaining why my example is relevant. It seems clear that people like them, so here I'm talking about the person in my example, people like them deserve assistance from the government as they get older and start to lose their ability to fully look after themselves. So why is the government necessary? I'm explaining it here in this sentence. So I'm relating my paragraph's point back to the question. This is why the government is necessary, according to my argument. Okay, now we're going to focus a little bit more on topic sentences. So just to remind ourselves, a topic sentence shows the clear central topic of each paragraph. It will be the first sentence of your paragraph. The examiner will be looking for your response to the question. The topic sentence provides this for them. It's easy for the examiner to see what your paragraph is about if your topic sentence is good. Here are 4 examples of topic sentences. The question is about whether sports are necessary for children's development. So it's talking about education, health, and children. So are sports necessary for children's health and development? These are 4 possible topic sentences. I would like you to decide if these are good or bad. First, look at the next question below this video for sentence number 1. Decide, is this a good topic sentence or a bad topic sentence? Choose the correct option now. Number 1 is a bad topic sentence. In my opinion, should not appear in your topic sentence. This is something you should save for your conclusion or possibly also your introduction. Apart from that, it's good, but a topic sentence is not about stating your opinion. You should state your topic sentence as a statement. Now, look at the next question for sentence number 2. Below this video, choose the option good or bad for sentence number 2. This is not a good topic sentence. Why not? Let's read it. Children need to do sports to develop their social skills, like communication, and to keep fit and healthy so they don't become obese and suffer health problems when they get older. There's a lot going on in this sentence. They're talking about social skills, communication, keeping fit, being healthy, obesity, health problems, and the effects when they get older. As the examiner, I would have no idea what the main central point to their paragraph is. So don't develop your point in this sentence and stick to one idea. Now, look at the next question below this video and decide for sentence number 3, is this a good or bad topic sentence? So sentence number 3 is a good topic sentence. Let's read it. Sports are an essential part of children's physical and social development. So I know this student is going to make 2 points in their paragraph. They're going to explain how sports is good for the physical body, and they're going to explain how sports is good for children's social development. So for a paragraph with 2 central points, this is a great topic sentence. Now, look at the next question below this video. For sentence number 4, do you think this is a good topic sentence or a bad topic sentence? Sentence 4 is a good topic sentence. It starts with "on the other hand." This is a linking expression of contrast, so it shows that this paragraph is going to express the opposite point of view to the previous paragraph. Your topic sentences for body paragraphs 2 or possibly 3 should start with a linking phrase to show the relationship with the previous paragraph. Then this topic sentence says, children need to learn social skills and sports are a good way of teaching this. Again, very clear what the student's point is there. We need to develop this further, but as a topic sentence, it's very good. Now let's look at how to develop this point. So for a strong and cohesive argument, you need to develop your main point. After your topic sentence, you need to write 1, 2, or maybe 3 sentences that explain your point. To do this, you can explain why your topic sentence is true, justify it. You could explain what are the causes or reasons for it and what are the consequences, negative or positive. You could explain the process behind the point you've made. Do you need to show how it functions or how it works? Importantly, especially for advantage and disadvantage essays, sometimes you need to say why something is a good thing or a bad thing, because it may not be obvious. For example, if you say that video games cause children to socialize less, you need to explain why socializing less is a bad thing. It might seem obvious to you and me, but your essay needs to be clear about these things. Of course, you need to show how it's relevant to the question. Sometimes this is obvious and so it's not necessary, but sometimes the connection between the question and the point is not immediately obvious. So, I'm going to show you some sentences from 3 different essays. So these are 3 different student essays on 3 different topics. We have 3 topic sentences, and then we have 3 extracts that support these topic sentences. What you need to do is decide what are the topic sentences and what are the extracts that support those topic sentences. So you'll be making 3 pairs of 2. Look at the next question below this video and choose the topic sentences and their matching supporting sentences. Okay, let's look at these matches. So F matches with A. F is the topic sentence, A is the supporting sentence. B matches with D, where B is the topic sentence, and E matches with C, where E is the topic sentence. Now let's look at why these are good. In F, the topic sentence is, another cause of pollution in cities is vehicles. So now the student needs to explain how this works. Road transport, such as cars and trucks, so this is explaining what they mean by vehicles, produce large amount of emissions such as carbon dioxide. So this is explaining the process behind the pollution. So now it's clear what they mean by their topic sentence. Let's look at B and D. B, however, without the arts, our lives would be less interesting. So the student is saying that arts are necessary for our lives to be interesting. Without them, our lives would be less interesting. In D, they explain how arts and culture make our lives more interesting. They keep us entertained. So they're explaining how the opposite has this effect, and therefore the topic sentence would make our lives less interesting if we didn't have these things. For E and C, the topic sentence is, perfect computer translation software removes the need for people to study languages. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Some of you may have different opinions about that. It's not clear to me whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. So what they need to do in sentences C is explain why it's good or bad. So they say, learning a foreign language is a great experience. Okay. It challenges your brain and it teaches you about new cultures and new ways of thinking. So this student is in favor of learning foreign languages. With translation technology available, people would no longer take part in this activity. So they've explained that learning languages is a good thing and computer translation software removes this good thing, therefore it is a bad thing. So they've developed their point well there. Now we're going to look at how to give examples. So the first thing to say is that you do not always need an example for every single one of your points. Only when you feel it's relevant and only when you feel it supports your point. However, as we said before, a good task to answer must contain at least 2 or 3 examples to support your points. In the question, it says to use examples from your own experience and your own knowledge. Now, some people think your own experience means talking about a funny story that happened last Saturday with your best friend. No, it's best not to give personal anecdotes or stories about specific family members. If you have a very relevant example from someone you know in your own life, then it is okay to include that. But generally, what they mean by your experience is maybe you've learned about a famous person who did something, or there is a particularly good example of this in your country, perhaps. Hypothetical examples are a good way to avoid giving these personal stories. You can imagine a situation where your point might be true. This is fantastic because you can use things like unreal tenses, second conditionals to make these points. Imagine if this were true, you could say. Don't include examples unless they perfectly illustrate your point. If they don't quite support the point you're making, do not include them. Okay? The purpose of an example is to support your point and show how it is true. You need to show that your example is an example. To do this, you can use a discourse marker. There are several, such as, for example, for instance, we've already seen. Here, we have an example of a topic sentence. This is a discussion essay about the benefits and disadvantages of studying a language in a foreign country. This student is making the point that studying languages in a foreign country can be too expensive for most students. So this is a criticism of studying languages in a foreign country. Now, here are 3 examples that they could give to support this point. First of all, have a look at sentence A. Do you think this is a good example or a bad example? Look at the next question below this video for sentence A and decide, is this a good example or a bad example? Sentence A is a bad example. The first problem is that they do not start their sentence with a discourse marker. There's no indication that it's an example. They should say, for example, or for instance. Also, they're saying that the language course in Moscow costs about $100 for a month. Now, I don't know Moscow. I don't know if this is too expensive. Maybe this is very cheap for Moscow. So it's not clear to me why this example is being given. They've also added that there are some very good teachers. This is not relevant to whether it's too expensive or not. This is a different point completely. Now look at sentence B. Look at the next question below this video and decide, is sentence B a good example to give or a bad example? Sentence B is a good example. This student has started with, for example, as a discourse marker. And you'll notice it's in present simple. A student coming to study English in Australia from Europe has to pay for a long flight and for accommodation, which is expensive in cities. This is a hypothetical example. It's not real. They are imagining a situation where this is true. And again, this example supports their main points. They give examples of things that can add to the cost, the long flight, the accommodation. These are things that make things too expensive for some people. So this is a good example. Finally, look at sentence C and look at the question below this video. Is sentence C a good or bad supporting example? Sentence C is not very good. They've got, for instance, which is fantastic, but it says, my cousin went to Vancouver to learn English and she said she would have preferred to stay in Colombia. This is not very good supporting evidence. It's a little bit too personal and it doesn't really prove the topic sentence. So avoid these personal examples if possible. That is the end of the class. Remember, if you have any questions, you can click on that chat icon at the top of your page. Now it's time to watch class 2 on this topic, and after that, do the relevant activities on this topic. Thank you for listening.